Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Curtis, and today I'm going to do a review for The Oval Season 6, Episode 12. The episode starts where the last one ended. Remember the assistant DA, her name is Miss Jenkins. She was saying that Nancy was going to be arrested. She called the officer in, and it looks like they were getting ready to handcuff her. Nancy is just like, wait a minute, hold on, did not do anything. And so Miss Jenkins asks her, like, were you having an affair with Richard's father? And she says, yes, I was, but I did not kill him. Miss Jenkins is like, yes, you did. The way that I see it is like this. You and Richard's father were having an affair. Richard's father decided that he wanted to end it, so you decided that you wanted to end his life. She's like, that is not true. And then as they are having this conversation, Nancy, she's starting to breathe real heavy, and she says, I need my inhaler, I have asthma. And then Miss Jenkins is like, you do not have asthma, you do not need an inhaler, stop it. And then Sharon pipes up and she's like, hold on, wait a minute for a second. She does struggle to breathe. She does have asthma and she does have an inhaler. Like, we definitely need to get her some type of medical attention. And Miss Jenkins was like, you know what? You may be right, you may have asthma, and we'll get you some medical attention after you answer my fucking questions. I said, well, damn, girl. She tells Nancy that she is going to be in jail for a very long time. She says, listen to me, ma'am. I am not responsible for this. This was Richard. He was the one that was involved. It has nothing to do with me. And so she's like, we have video footage. So if you remember in the last episode, she had her phone as far as with the assistant DA and she showed her footage. I wasn't really sure what she showed her last week because we didn't actually see it. But it turns out, I guess, that she showed her footage of her at the crime scene. And so she's like, we have this footage. And she's like, the footage is doctored. They are trying to set me up. She's like, who are they? She says Richard and Sam, and she's like, who the hell is Sam? She was like, Sam works with the Secret Service. And so she was like, you know what? I don't have time for this. Like, officer, please handcuff this lady. And so Nancy again says that she can't breathe, like she's struggling to breathe. She needs her inhaler. And she's like, you know what? You will be able to breathe much easier once you get into your cell. I was like, God damn, she is cold hearted. The officer that was standing at the door, he does end up rushing in. He grabs Nancy, he starts to arrest her. And when it comes to Sharon in this moment, she is very mute, she is very emotionless, she barely moves. And I'm like, what is going on here? Because earlier, like I said it before, she did chime in and say, hey, she does struggle to breathe, she does have an inhaler, she does have asthma. But when it came to her actually getting arrested, she was very, like I said, emotionless. She didn't move. And I was just like, Tyler, you couldn't have fed her a few lines? Like, help the girl out. Now, in regards to Miss Jenkins, the assistant DA, she appeared to be a little emotional. Like, you can tell that it was kind of bothering her as Nancy was getting arrested. So I was like, what is this? Because, she was just real tough with her, but now she's kind of showing some type of emotion. So I thought that was interesting. But when the officer is finally able to get Nancy cuffed, he does begin to drag her out to the main area where they were sitting before they had the conversation with Miss Jenkins. And as the officer is dragging her out, she notices that Richard is just out there chilling. She starts yelling that this is his fault. He is responsible for everything. Like, how can you do this to me? And he's just looking at her like, girl, shut the fuck up and get the fuck out of my face. Like, come on. They continue to drag Nancy. I was like, this is terrible. But they continue to drag Nancy out. And so Sharon actually walks up to Richard and she's like, hey, Richard. So she asked me to get a lawyer for her, but unfortunately, I do not know how to go about that. And he says, well, I'm not really sure what you want me to do because we do not have any money. And she was like, wait, so you don't want to help her out? He was like, I mean, I can't help her. We don't have any money. She spent all of the money. Sharon is just like, damn, like, I don't really know what to do. He's like, you know what? Don't worry about it. She'll be okay. And I was like, well, damn. And she's like, you know what I can do in this moment, I would just go to the house and I would start cleaning up. And he's like, you don't have to do that. She was like, listen to me. I just want to do it. Let me just go over there. And he's like, you know what? Fine. Sharon walks out of the station, and as she's walking out, Sam walks in, and Richard is just like, can you give me some information about what happened with Nancy? And he's like, no, I can't, because you told me that you did not want to know, so it's going to be a secret. And he was like, okay, that's fine, but when it comes to the charges, will they stick? And he's like, listen to me. I'm the one who handled this, so you better believe that the charges are going to stick. He's like, okay, cool. And then they end up walking out of the building. We go to the White House. We see Hunter. We see Isaac. They are sitting down. They are having a conversation. Isaac asks Hunter if he has received another call from Eli or from Donald. He's like, no. Then he asks him, is there anybody down there that he can trust? He says, you know what? As sad as it is, there isn't anybody down there that I can trust. Isaac is just like, damn. And then Hunter's like, you know what? You are a soldier. Let me ask you this question. If the roles were reversed, we were not in a situation, we were on the outside looking in. What would you do in this moment? He says, to be completely honest, I would probably assemble a strike team to take you and whoever was up here down. And so Hunter's like, you know what, that is my worst fear. So Isaac was like, do you think that Eli would do something like that? He was like, nah, he doesn't have the balls to. It's at this time that we see that Hunter, he's starting to get impatient, he's starting to get anxious, and he's like, oh my God, I cannot wait for this to be over. Like, I'm at the point where I just want to go down there and just get this over with. And so Isaac actually hands him a bulletproof vest. He's like, why are you giving me a bulletproof vest? He was like, because you were going to need it. Hunter's just like, I cannot believe that it's coming to this. Like, I just need whatever to happen. And then he says, I also have a sweet tooth that I need to tend to. And so Isaac believes that he's talking about candy. He's like, I'm not talking about candy, I'm talking about cocaine. So I guess it is like nose candy, but it's not the regular candy that Isaac thought he was talking about. There were three quick scenes after this, so I'm just going to put them together just to make it easier. So in the first scene, we see that Eli calls Kane into the room, and he tells him that he wants to find out where Victoria is. And Kane tells him that Victoria is actually in one of the guest bedrooms, and he's like, can you go get her? He's like, well, I can't leave my post. Somebody has to man the door, of course. So he's like, what I'm going to do, I'm going to reach out to somebody to man the door. And then once they come, I will go get Victoria. He was like, thank you. I do think it is very important to note that Eli, he did inquire about Sam in that scene. And so we know Sam, he is not there at this time. He is helping out Richard. But Eli definitely did try to figure out where Sam was in this moment. In the second scene, Simone, she attempts to fuck Bobby, but Bobby's like, you know what? I do not have time for this. He actually rejects her. And so she tries to guilt trip him into fucking her, but he's just like, you know what? I don't have time for this. And he actually walks out. Another quick note. So while Bobby, he did stand his ground, he stood firm, so congratulations to him. He does end up standing outside of her house, and so he was considering going in there and fucking her afterwards. So I just wanted to point that out. In the third scene, Donald reaches out to Allan while he's driving his car, and he says, hey, I need you to go to the bar right now so you can meet with somebody that can give you some information that I need. He was like, what? I'm not really trying to do that. He was like, listen to me. I just need you to go to the bar and I need you to order a certain drink. And then the person is going to walk up to you and they're going to give you some information that I need. And the good thing about it is you don't even have to rush in to tell me what the information is. You can hold on to it for the rest of the night. And Alan's like, you know what? I don't even know if I really want to know this information. He was like, listen, it's fine. It's okay. Just promise me that you are going to go to the bar and get this information for me. It's like, you know what? Fine, I'll do it. He was like, thank you. I appreciate it. And then he hangs up. And while we are talking about Donald, let's talk about the conversation that he was having with his wife, Lily. So when it comes to Lily, she walks into the room. She has a glass of wine. And he's like, wait a minute. Are you taking the pills with wine? She was like, yes. He was like, that can harm you. It can potentially kill you. And she was like, you know what? At this point, it's something that I use to numb the pain, so it's okay. And so he actually takes the glass of wine away from her, and he takes a few sips, and he says, do you really think I'm going to let you go that easy as far as with her trying to, I guess, try to commit suicide by drinking wine and taking the pills? And she's like, I'm not trying to commit suicide, fool. And then also when it comes to death, I'm pretty sure you'll be dead and gone before I do. He was like, oh, you think I'm going to go first? She said, I know that you are. Next thing you know, Kyle, he comes into the room and he actually walks up to them. And as he's walking up, Donald actually grabs his tie, pulls him closer, and kisses him in front of Lily. And so Lily, she has this smirk on her face because this isn't a surprise, but it was almost kind of like she was kind of turned on. I was like, what's going on here? And so Kyle was like, I have some information I need to tell you. He was like, but I can't tell you in front of her. And so Lily's like, I'm not going anywhere. And then he was like, I do not trust her. And then Donald was like, I do not trust her either. And so Donald was like, what can I do to get her to go away? And so he actually starts kissing Kyle over and over again. And so she's like, you know what? You got it. I'm going to go upstairs. I'm just going to leave you all alone. And so she ends up leaving the room. Once she leaves the room, Kyle tells him that he wants to try to get another phone line to Jason so that way he can maybe speak to Sam. They can work through their issues and then he could trust Sam again. And so Donald's like, you know what? I feel like that's a good idea. He was like, oh, you do? He said, yeah, you should try to get that done. And so Kyle, he's feeling very flirtatious because, Donald kissed him in front of his wife, so now he's feeling extra courageous. So he's like, do you want to go upstairs and fuck in front of her? And then he's like, no, what I want you to do is get that line up. He's like, okay, I got you. And then he ends up leaving. And then Donald's just like, got you wrapped right around my finger. We go back to the White House and we see that Sam has finally made it back. And so he and Eli are having a conversation. And Eli says, you know what? I called you. You did not answer. Donald said he called you, you did not answer. Like, where were you? He says, I've been here the entire time. Then he says, in regard to Donald, Donald did not call me. He did not text me. Like, I'm not sure what he is talking about. So Eli was like, oh, he lied to me, huh? Do you think I should not trust him? He says, you definitely should not trust that motherfucker. Eli decides to pivot and he brings up Victoria. Then he asks him, like, what dates did you two have sex? And so he says there was a time in July, there was a time in August. I believe they were both on the 8th. He was like, oh, 1 month apart, right? Then he says, how was your wife? And so Sam was like, I mean, she's pissed. And so Eli's like, well, how did it start? And he says, well, she approached me. She was very aggressive. I was weak at the time. And so unfortunately, I did what I did. So it's like, well, how did it end? He was like, well, I actually ended it because I just felt guilty. I felt like it wasn't something I should do. So I decided to end it. As the two of them are talking, Victoria actually walks into the room because remember, Eli had sent somebody to go get her. So now she's in the room. So she's just like, what are you two talking about? And so the two of them, they are silent. And then Eli was like, you know what, Sam, you can leave. And so Sam, he turns to leave, but Victoria, she actually blocks him. She moves this way, moves that way, moves this way. I was like, what in the world is she doing? And so eventually she does allow him to walk through. And then her and Eli, they have a conversation. She tells him that she did not appreciate the way that he spoke to her and that he better not do that shit again. And he's just like, yes, ma'am. So I'm like, did he get turned on by that? She goes on to say that she is responsible for where he is. Like, if it wasn't for her, he wouldn't be in the position that he's in. And he says, you know what, that's true. And she thanks him for acknowledging that because he's like, you know what, without you, I definitely would not be in this position. You were absolutely right. He decides to pivot and he brings up the fact that he has a plan. And she's like, oh, right, about sending in the strike team at 6 a.m. He was like, yeah. She was like, do you really think that's going to work? He was like, well, I wouldn't have put in that motion if I did not think that it was going to work. And so he was like, I mean, what do you think? And she was like, you know what? I'm just going to follow your lead. He was like, thank you. There was a scene after this where Allan, he is at the bar and this woman walks up and I'm going to assume that this is the person that Donna was talking about. And the two of them, they have this weird back and forth. Like, I'm not sure if it was flirtation. I'm not sure if it was anger. Apparently he had said something crazy to her earlier that day, and that caused her day to be bad. And so it was kind of like a test, I guess, to see like if he can gain her trust. And eventually he does gain her trust, but it was a very weird interaction to say the least. We go to the house and we see Sharon. She's attempting to clean up. Richard comes in to the area that she is in, takes a broom, and then they start having a conversation. He's just like, I cannot believe that Nancy was really out here fucking my father. Like, can you believe that? Sharon is just like, yeah, that is crazy. But what about that lawyer that we were talking about? He was like, I already told you I cannot get a lawyer because I do not have any money because she spent all of the money. She was like, yeah, I understand that, but we need to figure out something because you know that it wasn't Nancy that killed your father. So it was like, oh, well, if she did not do it, who did it? And she was like, well, I'm not really sure. I just know it's not Nancy. And he was like, well, how can you be sure? And she was like, I mean, because you know Nancy, I know Nancy. She's crazy. She's extra. She does the most. But her being the killer, like, come on now, that's not her. He looks at her like, did Dale tell you something? She was just like, what? He was like, did Dale tell you something? She was like, no. And then he started like really thinking and reflecting. He was like, Dale got a new car, right? She was like, yeah. He was like, how did he get that new car? She was like, I don't know. He was like, oh, you don't know? She was like, no, I don't know. He is asking question after question, and Sharon's like, oh my God, I need to figure out a way to get out of this. So she's like, you know what? I need to go to my sister's house. And so he was like, wait, before you go, I need to ask you a question. She was like, what? He was like, do you have Dale's phone number? She was like, yes. He was like, I need you to text it to me. So she's like, okay, cool. He's like, no, I need you to text it to me right now. So she does send him a text message, and then he does let her leave. After this, we go back to the White House and we see Isaac. He goes to talk to Jason and he's like, you need to talk to your father. He's like, that's not something I'm trying to do. And as they are having the conversation, Isaac notices that Jason, he's playing on his phone, but he's also playing on the tablet. So he's like, are you trying to connect the line or something? And he's like, why do you care? He's like, you do understand that we are experts as far as like him and his men. There is no way that you will be able to successfully connect the line. And he's like, you don't know that? He's like, yes, I do. And so Jason, he's trying to ignore him. He's like, you're wasting your time. So Jason is just like, you know what? Let me ask you a question. Why do you think my father hired you? He was like, because I'm the best. He was like, oh, you are the best? He said, yeah. Jason calls bullshit because he's like, when it comes to my mom, you had the perfect shot and you fucked it up. How can you do that if you are the best? He's like, you know what? When it comes to my mom, do you even know where she is? He's like, no, I do not know. He was like, so how can you say that you are the best if you do not know where she is? Jason then starts to inquire about Isaac's men. Like, do you feel like your guys are actually in place? Do you feel like your guys are trustworthy? And so Isaac is just like, is there something that you need to tell me? He was like, yes, there is. He was like, what is that? Get the fuck out. I said, damn, bro. Once Isaac leaves, Jason he ends up going into the closet. He removes like some kind of door and he's able to walk through and he's able to kind of sneak out. So I'm not really sure where he is heading, but he was definitely able to sneak out. After this, we see Sharon. She is walking down the street. It is nighttime, mind you. And we do see like some lights in the background. And I was like, is that a car? Is that a van? What is that? But as she is walking down the street, she does get a call. And it turns out to be Dale. And she's like, whose phone are you using? He was like, this is my phone. I actually have a new phone number. So the number that she had texted Richard, that's actually the wrong number. So, Richard's about to be pissed about that. She tells him that he needs to lay low. He was like, why do I need to lay low? And she was like, well, when it comes to Nancy, she was arrested because they believe that she was the one that killed Richard's father. And then when it comes to Richard, he was asking a lot of questions about you, like your phone number, about your car. And so he is just like, oh my God, you don't think that he's going to try to comfort me, do you? And she was like, you know what, I'm not really sure, but that's why I feel like you need to lay low down. And so he was like, you know what, I got you. And she was like, well, where are you? He was like, well, I'm actually at a friend's house. Well, in fact, I'm actually standing in front of a friend's house because my friend is not here right now, but I will be here overnight. So she's like, okay, cool. We'll think about the plan. He's like, okay, cool. And then she hangs up. And I was saying a little bit earlier, there were some lights in the background. They do come closer, and we see that it's a van. And so the van stops next to her. Then the man gets out, grabs her, puts her inside the van, and she is kidnapped. And I was just like, oh Lord, what's getting ready to happen? And that was the end of the episode. Really do appreciate you all watching. So they actually released 2 episodes, so episode 12 and episode 13. I will get episode 13 up as soon as I can. But if you could, please like, comment, share, subscribe. Would be great. Hope you all have a great rest of your day. Bye.